Today we are going to talk about a few frequently asked questions about listing agreements. And one of the fundamental questions is, what's the listing agreement?
A listing agreement is a contract between two parties, between the seller and their agent, and it governs the relationship that those two parties are going to have while the contract is in force.
In simple way, is a commitment between both parties to work together to achieve an outcome that is dear to both parties.
Yeah, so now with that out of the way, we're going to scoop over to the first question that we hear a lot. Do I need to sign a listing agreement?
Yes, as a seller, you need to sign the listing agreement. In fact, it's a commitment between both parties, the seller and the brokerages, allowing us as listing agent representative to present your home to the market and sell it at the market price.
Right, and the second point that we hear quite often, the second question is, how long is the contract for? What's the duration of the listing agreement?
Yeah, the duration of a listing agreement varies. It could be anywhere from 60 days to 365 days. As per MLS rule, we need to have at least 2 months in order to present your home to the market on MLS. However, companies, teams have different terms. Our company's rules is that minimum term is 120 days. Depending on the pricing, depending on the motivation of the seller to sell their home at a price that the market is telling us, that term can be lengthened to a year. And that's of course an agreement between sellers and the brokerages.
The market conditions always change, so sometimes the property sells within a week, sometimes it takes 6 to 12 months to sell one, depending on the property type, the location, the conditions in the marketplace, etc. So brokerages have pretty strict rules on the duration of that particular contract, and when the seller wants to have an agreement for 30 days just kind of to try things out, that doesn't work for anyone.
That's right. So one of the questions we are hearing from the sellers is whether I change my mind and whether I don't want to sell anymore, or I'm not happy and I want to get out of the deal.
Yeah, so it's very important for you to understand if you can't break the contract, and it can happen for any number of reasons. You could have a health scare, you could have a market change on you, you could have some family circumstances that are different from what they were when you were planning to list a home. And the most direct way of taking the property off the market is what's called suspension. On MLS, it's designated by 3 letters, SUS, so agents that are looking at the home, seeing that it's suspended, the customer-facing portals like Realtor.ca, Realtor.com, Home Finder, etc., are not showing that property anymore because the property is effectively off the market. It's in a suspended state. The other option that sometimes a seller would be asking for is a termination of an agreement, which is an agreement annulment, as if it never existed as of the date of the termination. So the seller is free to do what they want, and the agent is no longer representing that seller. It's very different from the suspension. Normally, though, if you as a seller ask for that, a brokerage would not grant you that option. So it's difficult to get it, and you have to have an exceptionally strong reason to be requesting that sort of an outcome.
We also say that consider this agreement is like a marriage. During a certain time, for 2, 3, 4 months, you are committed to each other. Both parties are committed to each other. And yes, there are things that might not work. And if there are things that are not working or things that are working and we need to improve them, being in communication is key to success, to bring the outcome that both parties are looking for.
Moving on to the next question. Can I talk to other agents while I'm on the contract? Can I get advice from somebody else? My property may have been in the market for 3-4 weeks. I'm not seeing the traction that I was hoping for when I was listing it. And I want to understand what other agents are thinking about the approach of the agent that I ended up hiring, right?
Yeah, so as per Toronto Real Estate Board and Real Estate Council of Ontario, of course, that we are following the guideline, an agent cannot actually solicit a listing that is already on the market. So if you have any
and advice, just to also mention, and advice from an agent could constitute solicitation. So, really you can't talk to agents, right?
That's right. However, what we have been doing proactively for our clients, we talk with other agents. We would like to hear their opinion. If they are very strong in a market that we have listings, then we can have agent open houses to come give their opinion of what they think the value would be, because at the end we are all working for the same goal, selling our clients property and communicating with other agents who have great market share or who potentially have a buyer would allow us to see whether we are in the right place. One of the other questions we hear what's the commission and whether it's negotiable.
Okay, a commission is a percentage that a seller would pay the agent once the property sells. Not before that, not when the contract is signed, only when and if an agent can deliver and sell the property. And on the closing date, the brokerage through the lawyer disburses the funds to the seller and the agent gets compensated as well. So usually the commission here in Ontario is 5%, and it's slightly lower than the commission that agents charge in the United States. There it's 6%. Is the commission negotiable? A lot of sellers are asking that as well. Of course it is. It depends on the package and what the agent brings to the table. It depends on the condition of the house, on the price point of the property, on the location of the home. So there's a lot of factors that the agent and the seller have to consider when they're talking about the commission. Bottom line, the commission is always negotiable. It makes sense to bring this question up and talk about it and see what you can come up with. And the last question I wanted to cover, what happens if my property expires without selling? So say you've signed a contract for 6 months, you've been in the market for 6 months, and it's due to expire on January 31st of a given year. What are my options?
Very good question, and definitely that is a concern for a lot of sellers who have been on the market and did not sell their home. And most likely, if you have not been sold within the time frame that you were on MLS, definitely pricing, it could be one of the biggest concerns. If you had no showings or not many, or if you had offers but not satisfactory to you, in itself is a great indication that the price is off. And at the same time, what you need to consider right now, the agreement is expired, so you have the opportunity not to interview other agents to reevaluate your motivation on a scale of 1 to 10. How motivated are you to sell your home? Or how open are you to listen to the listing agent advices? And at the same time, if you are interviewing 2-3 agents or from different brokerages, it would give you different perspectives that you can reevaluate and see who would be a better match for you. And then at least this time, you would come to the market at a price that would make sense, working with the listing agent brokerages that would be a better match for you.
Yeah, so just as a side note, of course it's a good idea to interview agents, kind of regardless of whether you were happy with the agent that you hired initially or not. At the same time, it doesn't mean that you have to change an agent.
Absolutely.
The agent that you've hired initially may have done an outstanding job for you, but the market conditions were such that they couldn't do anything more to deliver the price that you wanted. Or perhaps you had pricing expectations that were higher that the market could bear, and they just said, okay, fine, we'll go with that and we'll see what happens. So it could be any number of reasons to keep the agent that you had in the first place. So don't just dismiss it out of hand and say, okay, I'm going to interview 3 new agents and I'm going to hire one of them. No, not necessarily. You're going to interview the agents and see if the agent that you worked with is still a great fit for you.
Yeah.
So guys, that's about it with questions that we hear most often in a listing presentation. If you like the content, hit the like button, consider subscribing, and comments. I'm sure you have questions of your own that you want answered, and if you could share those questions in the comment section, we would make sure to address them in one of the next videos.
See you next time.
See you.